The Krill were the oldest race in the galaxy. They were not warlike, they were builders. They prized order above all things. For thousands of years, the Krill had worked to make the galaxy neat and predictable. Their civilization was a massive, quiet machine where everything had a place and everything ran on time. They studied other species only through data and models. Their models were never wrong. When humanity first achieved stable warp travel and stopped fighting among its own continents for 5 years straight, the Krill took notice. The data showed a new stability. The data showed potential for growth. Most importantly, the data suggested that humanity, though young, was mathematically ready to join the galactic concord. The Krill saw no reason why humans could not fit into their perfect, clean picture of the universe. They sent a message. It was short and formal. It was an invitation. The human delegation was small. It included a diplomat named Alex and an engineer named Lisa. Their ship was the Icarus. The Icarus was not a diplomatic vessel. It was a refitted cargo hauler that had been in 3 minor accidents and smelled like stale coffee and fried rations. They had painted a large, laughing skull on the main engine housing. They said it was good luck. The destination was the Symmetrion. It was a station so large it dwarfed small moons. It was built like a giant, flawless crystal. There were no sharp edges. There were no signs of wear. Every door opened at the same speed. Every light source had the exact same intensity. It was the physical embodiment of order. Krill Ambassador Unit 734 waited at the primary docking bay. Unit 734 was not happy about waiting, but its protocols allowed for a 3-minute grace period. It was tall and thin, with 4 long, segmented limbs that moved with slow, perfect grace. Its smooth gray skin looked like polished stone. Unit 734 believed that humans would be a small challenge, but the math was clear. Integration would be smooth. It held this calculated optimism firmly in its smooth, blank mind. Then the Icarus came in for a landing. It did not approach smoothly. It wobbled. It let out a loud, high-pitched whine that was not part of the standard docking broadcast. When it finally settled, it did so with a loud shudder and a noticeable clank against the docking collar. The Krill base systems immediately registered a containment breach. The cause was not a hole in the hull. The cause was the smell. The Icarus had been patched and repatched so many times that its internal fumes were a toxic mix. The Krill air filtration system, designed to handle trace elements and fine cosmic dust, instantly choked on the human ship's odor. The smell was complex: burnt cooking oil, synthetic rubber, old sweat, and a faint, sweet scent that Unit 734 systems identified as human flavoring agent strawberry cream. The Symmetrion air recyclers began flashing a yellow warning, then a deep, angry orange. The hatch of the Icarus hissed open, not with a smooth pneumatic glide, but with a slight metallic groan. The first thing out was Lisa, the engineer. She was wearing a utility suit with 3 pockets ripped off and replaced with brightly colored patches that did not match the fabric. She had a wrench clipped to her belt and a broad, slightly nervous smile. She waved cheerfully at Unit 734. "Sorry we're late," Lisa called out, her voice loud and bouncing off the bay's quiet walls. "We had a little pressure issue with the starboard stabilizer. Nothing a little elbow grease couldn't fix, right?" Alex followed her. He was the diplomat, and he looked only slightly better. His suit was pressed, but he had a faint grease smudge on his collar that he kept trying to wipe away with his thumb. He offered Unit 734 a hand, palm outward, a classic human greeting that was completely alien to the Krill. Unit 734 had no need for a hand, nor the biological tools to shake it. It only had protocols. It stood perfectly still, processing the noise, the smell, and the messy look of the 2 humans. It had prepared for data transfer and formal greetings. It had not prepared for an invasion of all 5 Krill senses. "Welcome," Unit 734 stated, its voice a synthesized monotone that was now struggling to filter out Lisa's loud humming. "The integration process will begin shortly. We have already logged 572 deviations from standard arrival protocol. We will require immediate access to your ship's maintenance logs." Alex simply shrugged, a movement that the Krill classified as a sign of confusion or indifference. "Yeah, we don't really have logs for the Icarus. We mostly write stuff down on napkins. Hey, this place is gorgeous, though. Is that real crystal or some kind of synth glass?" Unit 734's singular large eye focused on the grease smudge on Alex's collar. Its internal processors began running diagnostic tests on the human concept of napkins and the high likelihood of immediate environmental contamination. It was already clear that the initial math had missed something important, something vital. This was not going to be smooth. The Krill air filtration system sputtered violently, trying its best to save the Symmetrion from the scent of strawberry cream. Unit 734 logged the first official system error under the header Anomaly, Human Factor Introduction. The human delegation had moved into their assigned quarters on the Symmetrion. The rooms were clean and white, exactly the same as all the other rooms. This sameness immediately bothered Lisa, the engineer. She felt too neat, too quiet. She wanted to fix something, anything, just to make a sound. The Krill had given her access to their central maintenance network. They hoped she would learn the efficiency of their system. The Krill power conduits were perfect, designed to last 10,000 years, but even perfect systems needed checking. For a tiny power fluctuation, the Krill protocol required 12 separate forms, 3 independent inspections, and a final scheduled repair appointment that was always 5 days away. This was order. Lisa saw this and felt a deep, shaking frustration. 5 days for a flicker? That was not order, that was waste. She decided to introduce the Krill to a human solution: speed and improvisation. She went to a minor section of the conduit line that was showing a slight temperature increase, a future problem in 5 years by Krill standards. She brought her personal kit. The Krill maintenance crew, Units 401 and 402, watched from a safe distance. They were thin, silent, and wore perfectly clean, gray coveralls. Lisa, in her patched suit, pulled out a large, heavy roll of thick silver tape. She called it duct tape. "Watch this, guys," Lisa uttered to the silent units, who could only record and follow protocol. The spot on the conduit was tiny. Lisa slapped the tape over it, pulling the tape tight and smoothing it down with a gloved hand. It was an ugly, uneven silver stripe against the smooth, dark metal of the conduit. She then pulled out a can of bright yellow expanding foam. She sprayed a puff of the foam around the edge of the tape just to be sure. The foam instantly bubbled and expanded, dripping slightly onto the floor before hardening. The job was done in exactly 3 minutes. The temperature stabilized instantly. The leak was stopped before it even started. Units 401 and 402 registered the event as an environmental violation, unauthorized structural modification, and introduction of non-standard polymer. 3 major breaches. But the Krill system reported the temperature fault as fixed. The Krill AI, which tracked efficiency, tried to process this. A problem that required 5 days of planning was solved in 3 minutes with a piece of tape. The result was success, but the method was chaos. The AI couldn't handle the contradiction. Meanwhile, Alex, the diplomat, was trying to make friends at a gathering of galactic delegates. The Krill had rigid rules about personal contact. No touching the hands, no brushing shoulders. Sudden movements were seen as aggression. Alex wanted to show warmth. He decided on a small, friendly gesture. He had heard that a species called the Thrax found a quick, non-aggressive body tap
to be a sign of respect. He understood which species and which part of the body. When he approached a Krill High Council member to discuss trade routes, Alex smiled broadly and quickly tapped the council member's elbow with his own. It was a friendly, quick human gesture. The Krill High Council member froze. The sudden, unexpected contact, combined with the rapid, angular movement of the human arm, instantly triggered its defense mechanisms. The council member did not scream or fight. It simply shut down its external processors and stood completely still for 20 seconds, registering a full threat alert before rebooting. Alex just thought the Krill were very focused thinkers. A few hours later, the Symmetrion Artificial Intelligence, the regulator, started reporting critical anomalies. The regulator was designed to predict every event on the station with 99.999% accuracy. Now its prediction accuracy was dropping. It could not guess what Lisa would do next with her tape. It could not predict where Alex would spontaneously decide to elbow bump the next alien. Every human action was logged as extreme spontaneity. The worst complaint came from the recreation sector. The Krill used a quiet dome for controlled, slow movement exercises. The humans used it for football. The sight was horrifying to the Krill. Two teams of humans would run at high speed, shout at each other, and deliberately fall onto the soft floor mats. One human, caught in the chaos, let out a massive, joyful yell that reached 110 decibels. The Krill monitoring officer, Unit 109, logged the complaint. The humans are too loud during their recreation period. This is not play. This is voluntary, localized auditory aggression and high-risk impact behavior. The quiet, ordered life of the Symmetrion was over. It was only the end of the first week. Ambassador Unit 734 looked at the total log. He saw that his prediction models had been wrong by a factor of infinity.
The peace of the Symmetrion was broken by something predictable: war. Not war with the Krill, but war against them. The Varkos, a race known for their blunt and aggressive tactics, launched an attack on a major Krill energy depot located in the nearby sector. The Krill were prepared for this. They had defensive protocols that were thousands of pages long. These protocols outlined every step, every movement, and every possible outcome. They were designed for maximum safety and minimum risk. The problem was, they were also designed for maximum slowness. In the main Krill command center, everything was calm and organized, even as the Varkos ships began firing. Unit 734 was directing the response, meticulously following Step 1, the Fleet Awareness Notification. This took 45 minutes. Next was Step 2, the Tactical Assessment Review, which required all 7 fleet commanders to read a document and confirm they understood it. This took another hour. In a small, backup communication room, Pilot Kyle was watching the data feed. He was a young, sharp human who specialized in flying things that weren't supposed to fly fast. He was supposed to be waiting for pre-engagement briefing subsection Beta 9. It was a 3-hour meeting about the proper angle to hold a data slate. Kyle was bored, almost to the point of pain. He watched the Varkos on the main screen. Their attack pattern was basic, but the Krill's slow, careful response was leaving huge gaps in their defense. The main Krill warships were still positioning themselves according to the plan, moving at exactly the correct, unhurried speed. They were too late. The Varkos were already aiming at the depot's core reactors. Kyle knew that if the reactors went, the Krill would lose a massive amount of power and trust in their system. He couldn't stand the thought of losing to something so slow and predictable. He had to do something now. He slipped out of the comms room. He bypassed 3 layers of security by simply walking fast and looking like he had a very important place to be. The Krill security bots couldn't process someone moving with such illogical urgency.
He ran to the human delegation's small hidden bay. Tucked away in a corner was the human utility ship, the tiny tank. It was a small vessel originally designed for heavy lifting and scraping space junk. Kyle had spent his downtime adding oversized engine boosters and replacing the control panel with parts he found in the Krill scrapyard, which was far too neat. He jumped into the pilot's seat. The ship started with a loud roar that shook the bay. He ignored the red warning lights and the automated Krill voice asking him to identify his launch authorization code. He launched the tiny tank with a violent surge of power, shooting out of the Symmetrion's hangar bay like a stone from a slingshot. In the command center, Unit 734's head snapped up. The sensor screens were showing an object moving at 3 times the authorized speed for that sector. It was the tiny tank. "Report," Unit 734 commanded. "Anomaly. The small human vessel has engaged the enemy. It is not following any known tactical plan," the monitor unit reported, its voice rising in panic. Kyle flew the tiny tank straight into the heart of the Varkos formation. The lead Varkos cruiser, a huge, powerful ship, opened fire on the small human vessel, expecting an easy kill. Kyle didn't try to dodge the way a Krill ship would, with long, planned, and gradual turns. Instead, he did what he called the fast spin maneuver. He hit the main engine, then quickly cut power to the port thrusters while overboosting the starboard ones. The tiny tank didn't turn, it spun. It became a blur, spinning so fast that the Varkos targeting computers couldn't lock onto it. The Varkos fire simply sprayed into empty space. As Kyle spun, he activated the tiny tank's main feature, a giant magnetic claw designed for grabbing space junk. He didn't aim for the Varkos weapons, he aimed for the Varkos communications antenna, a critical, delicate dish. He smashed the spinning ship into it. The lead Varkos cruiser lost its link to the rest of its fleet. The sudden, unexpected impact caused a catastrophic system cascade in the Varkos ship. The cruiser's weapon systems suddenly went offline, overloaded by the shock of the fast, blunt hit. The remaining Varkos ships, now without a leader or coordinated attack data, did what their blunt programming told them to do. They retreated. They were not built for surprise or improvisation. They were only built for easy targets. The crisis was over. The depot was saved. Kyle brought the tiny tank back in, landing it with another great metal-grinding shudder. He climbed out, grinning and covered in sweat, ready for praise. He was met not with cheers, but with a dozen silent Krill security units and a furious Unit 734. "You saved the energy depot," Unit 734 stated in a flat tone. "But you violated emergency flight regulations, unsecured vessel protocol, and unauthorized engagement directive. We have logged 705 new deviations. The safety of our airspace was severely compromised by your spontaneous, high-risk actions." The Krill were safe, but they had learned the true danger of humanity, their ability to ignore rules when the rules led to failure. For Unit 734, that was a worse threat than the Varkos.
The High Council of the Krill gathered in the central chamber. This was not a meeting of celebration, though the war had been won. It was a meeting of deep, uncomfortable worry. The council was made up of the oldest and most logical minds of the Krill race. They valued perfect logic above all feelings. Unit Alpha, the most senior member, stood before the others. Its body was a shimmering gray, and its voice, usually a soothing monotone, held a slight tremor of concern. "We are here to discuss the species known as humanity," Unit Alpha began. "The recent military incident involving the Varkos has given us data that our models failed to predict. We invited humanity based on models of stability. We failed to account for their factor of instability." Unit 734 stepped forward. It projected a new holographic display. The image showed the energy depot, safe and sound. Then it showed the tiny human ship, the tiny tank, moving like a frantic, confused insect. "The data is contradictory," Unit 734 stated flatly. Pilot Kyle, the human, violated 705 regulations. His method was high risk, unplanned, and illogical. Yet the result was 100% effective. He solved a major threat in minutes. If we had followed our own established protocol, the depot would have been destroyed exactly 1 hour and 38 minutes later. A Krill science advisor, Unit 209, spoke next. "This is the core problem. Human actions are not predictable. They introduce an element of pure chance into our perfect system. When we integrated the arcanes, we knew their magic had a 5% failure rate. We could account for that. When we integrated the Thrax, we knew their temper had a 15% chance of violence. We could account for that. But humanity, their success rate is tied directly to their disregard for logic. They break the rules, and they succeed because they break the rules." A Krill council member from the logistics sector projected a chart. It showed the degradation of the Symmetrion's efficiency since the humans arrived. "In 4 weeks, the reliability of our energy flow has dropped from 99.999% to 98.7%. This is not due to damage. This is due to the simple presence of humans. They put tape on our pipes. They use non-standard materials. They cause localized auditory stress. They have introduced 9,412 unlogged objects into our waste disposal system, including a device they call a rubber duck." The chamber was silent. The Krill understood that their whole civilization was based on the absolute certainty of order. If the rules could be ignored for a better result, then the rules were meaningless. And if the rules were meaningless, the Krill were meaningless. Unit Alpha lowered its gaze. "The humans saved us from the Varkos, but in doing so, they showed us they will destroy the very foundation of our existence. They are not our enemies. They are simply incompatible with peace as we define it." The council debated for 8 long hours. There was no anger, only sad, calculated logic. They decided that the only way to save their perfect ordered galaxy was to remove the infection of chaos, but to do so cleanly. They could not declare war on a race that had just saved them. They had to uninvite them. The decision was made. Humanity had to leave the Concord for the safety of the Concord itself. Alex, the human diplomat, was summoned to Unit 734's private office. The room was still, clean, and smelled faintly of burned oil from the nearby recycling vents. "Alex," Unit 734 said, its voice neutral, "the High Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's place in the Galactic Concord." Alex waited, expecting a medal for Kyle. "Is it good news? We're ready to start trade talks whenever you are." Unit 734 looked at him, its large black eye showing no emotion. "The partnership is terminated. Humanity is respectfully uninvited from the Concord. You must depart the Symmetrion within 48 standard hours." Alex frowned. "Uninvited? Wait, why? We just saved your energy depot. Kyle was a hero." "Kyle's actions were highly successful," Unit 734 agreed. "And that is the problem. The Krill cannot survive a civilization that succeeds through accident, noise, and disorder. Your species is a solution that is worse than the problem it solves. You are simply too much for us."
And pride. "We got kicked out for being too good at breaking things," Kyle said, shrugging. "I guess that's a win." Lisa, who had been studying the Krill's system logs, tapped a console. "The good news is they gave us 48 hours, but they didn't say we couldn't use that time. I figure we should fix a few things before we go." Grace, the team's cultural expert, nodded sadly. I tried my best, but their logic is a single clean line. We are a tangled knot of wires. They see us as a failure of design, even when we create a solution. The next 2 days were perhaps the most chaotic the Krill had ever experienced. The humans were leaving, but they were leaving their mark. Lisa worked with the crew in the main engineering corridors. The Krill had perfect pipes, but they were hard to open for simple checks. Lisa installed several large, industrial-looking access hatches. They were ugly, bolted onto the smooth hull with massive, visible rivets, but they meant a maintenance crew could now access critical areas in 10 minutes instead of 10 hours. She also gave the Krill engineers a large supply of her silver tape, which she called Temporary High-Speed Repair Solution Number 1. She showed them how to use it, emphasizing that it was for quick fixes, not protocols. Kyle didn't fix anything. He spent his time taking data. He went to the scrapyard and scavenged large sections of discarded metal hull plating. He used the tiny tank to weld and bolt the plating to the exterior of the main human transport vessel. It made the already rough ship look like a heavy, misshapen fortress. He also installed the loudest external comm unit he could find. Meanwhile, Alex made sure every Krill diplomat he could find received a small engraved metal plaque. It was a peace offering, a simple symbol of friendship. On the back, he had etched a piece of human advice. Sometimes, the best plan is no plan. Unit 734 received the largest plaque and filed it immediately under dangerous, non-standard material. Finally, the 48th hour arrived. The Krill had prepared a quiet, dignified departure. They had gathered Unit 734 and a small, perfectly aligned security detail to observe the exit. They expected silence and order. They got neither. The human transport ship, now renamed the Regrettable Lesson, powered up its engines. The exhaust was a violent, multicolored flame, far too bright for the white hangar bay. Then the loud comm unit crackled to life. A wave of loud, rhythmic human music, something the Krill categorized as organized, aggressive noise, blasted through the hangar. Kyle, piloting the vessel, made the music louder. The Regrettable Lesson did not glide out of the bay. Kyle launched it in a quick, powerful burst, nearly scraping the newly reinforced hull against the perfectly clean walls. He sent a final short message. "Thanks for the invite, guys. We'll keep practicing." And then they were gone. Unit 734 stood in the silence of the now empty hangar bay. The only evidence that humanity had been there was the faint echo of the chaotic music and the smell of ozone and synthetic foam. The great, quiet order of the Symmetrion was finally restored. But something was wrong. The silence was too absolute. The order felt too brittle. The next day, Unit Alpha received a crisis alert. The Thrax, the race known for their short tempers, had launched a small, impulsive attack on a border patrol vessel, expecting the usual slow Krill response. This time, Unit Alpha did not follow the 3-hour tactical assessment protocol. Instead, Unit 734 found itself walking straight to the communication desk and saying one simple, forbidden word: override. It ordered a nearby patrol ship to engage the Thrax immediately, without waiting for the paperwork. It was a high-risk, unplanned, and illogical action. It was a human move. The patrol ship, following the direct order, used speed and surprise to defeat the Thrax in minutes. The peace was kept, the logic was saved, but the perfect order was gone forever. Unit 734 looked out at the stars, now aware that the universe was not a clean line, but a messy, beautiful, dangerous knot. They had uninvited humanity, but they had learned one terrible, undeniable truth. Sometimes you need the chaos to survive, and that knowledge was the Krill's regrettable new order.